It's all for one investigates, because it's all for one or all for nothing.
Looks like it's conclusive. FogVid 24 is a real thing. The previous video is going viral. If you go and read the comment section, everybody's saying they were completely fine. They didn't feel anything coming on. But then as soon as they went out in this fog, whatever it is, they got a sore throat. They had to go to bed. They couldn't sleep. They were bummed up. They had migraines. They lost all their energy. And not only them, everyone in the household. There's mums reporting on it saying all the kids are ill. We've got people in Kentucky. We've got people in Sweden. We've got people in Finland, all reporting the same thing. The fog has made them sick. And you know, it's scenarios like this that always have an adverse effect. Whatever they're doing in the skies, whatever they're spraying, whatever this fog is, they're obviously doing it for a reason, but it is going to wake people up. People have had enough. They're sick of being poked. They're sick of being prodded. They're sick of poison in the air and poison in the food, poison in the milk, poison in the minds. We're being pummeled in more ways we can imagine to demoralise us over a period of time. So when things get to a critical point and everyone's screaming out for a saviour, the government's going to be there. But they were the ones that created the problem in the first place.
Yep, there's links to my profile on X, and I got a thread of every video that I'm going to be playing. So if you want to go dig further into it, all you have to do is go to the description box and click on the link, and you can go to the thread on X. Well, let's go down and dig a little more into the New Year DEFUSE operation. Let's see.
Well, my friends, it's obvious right now the pharmaceutical industry and their cronies in the mainstream media are working overtime to make bird flu a thing. It's like High-Waisted Jeans or any show from the 90s. They keep trying to bring bird flu back. Now, I took it upon myself to speak with several people in the farming industry who all say this fear-mongering has gotten out of control. They say bird flu, it's been around forever, but only now that we have a new administration coming in are people going on TV and laying the groundwork to shut down the country. Now, what the mainstream media doesn't want to report are the actual facts and the data. So if we look at 2024, we have 65 cases of H5N1. That is the bird flu. Of those cases, 39 were associated with dairy herds, 23 with poultry farms. There's only one serious case in Louisiana. The man is still alive, but he's over 65 with pre-existing conditions and was handling sick, dead birds. Now, this is the part they absolutely don't want you to know. There is zero evidence of human-to-human spread of the bird flu, not a shred of evidence that it can go from person to person. Now, despite all that information, this woman, Dr. Leana Wen, who is Big Pharma's biggest cheerleader, she's going on television and calling for the Biden administration to rush the authorization of a vaccine for bird flu.
There actually is a vaccine developed already against H5N1. The Biden administration has contracted with manufacturers to make almost 5 million doses of the vaccine. However, they have not asked the FDA to authorize the vaccine. There's research done on it. They could get this authorized now and also get the vaccine out and to farm workers and to vulnerable people. I think that's the right approach because we don't know what the Trump administration is going to be doing around bird flu. If they have people coming in with anti-vaccine stances, could they hold up vaccine authorization?
Now, I took it upon myself to pull up this woman's biography. She is the former president of Planned Parenthood. She writes for the Washington Post, and she was a spokesperson for the COVID-19 pandemic, whatever that means. So let's just say she's not going to be speaking at Turning Point. Now, you guys come to my page because I call it like I see it. There is just something about this woman I do not trust. When I look at her, I'm very streetwise, I'm very perceptive. I do not trust her. She even posted a picture in 2022 of her very young children with masks on, saying she was so happy kids under 5 could now get the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines for COVID. I don't know if she has anything to gain financially from Pfizer, but she has received awards sponsored by the company. She has posts praising Fauci as her Lord and Savior. She wrote an op-ed in July for the Washington Post after Joe Biden dropped out, saying, "Thank you, President Biden, for leading us through the pandemic." She's also said horrific, terrible things about Donald Trump's incoming appointees and his administration, but she has no problem with Rachel Levine. So she wants us to get health advice from a man in a dress, not people who actually work out every day and are healthy. So this supposed health expert wants all of us to get vaccinated against bird flu, which can't even spread from person to person right now, but she doesn't want to talk about exercise, eating well, getting sunlight, vitamin D, adequate rest. She doesn't want to talk about those things on television. Now, the mainstream media, most of these cable news networks, they are making billions of dollars from pharmaceutical advertisers. The US and New Zealand, they're actually the only two developed nations that allow big pharma ads on television. So someone like Dr. Liana Wynn, she is crack for Big Pharma and the television network. She's going on TV, calling for the authorization of a new vaccine. That's going to put billions of dollars in the pockets of the pharmaceutical companies. And the television networks, they're also going to profit as well because those are their advertisers. Now, like I always say, I've never taken a dollar from the RNC or the DNC or any special interest group. The only thing I'm beholden to is the truth. And I would respect people like this a lot more if they went on TV and were honest. Instead of telling us we have our heads in the sand, we're not reacting fast enough, everybody be scared, we could shut down the country, emergency authorization, why don't you tell us there's no human-to-human spread right now? Not a shred of evidence that it can spread from human to human, but you're going on TV and doing this fear-mongering. So in conclusion, when it comes to bird flu, I'm not going to listen to bird brain people, especially these health experts who have said Joe Biden, he's in perfect condition, he's doing cartwheels in private, we have nothing to worry about, he's not in decline. You people want us to believe you now after lying to us for years. All right, my friends, thanks for liking and following. Drop a comment. Tell me how you feel about bird flu. How do you feel about pharmaceutical advertising on television? I will see you on the next one. Bye.
Yep, it's pretty wild stuff, man. They're pushing that narrative, getting the propaganda wheels rolling. But listen to this right here. This ought to tick a lot of people off, man. This is insane, and it needs to be thoroughly investigated to find out how many people are actually doing this.
In Spain, apparently there was an investigation by the federal police, and they caught a bunch of people in, I guess, what would be like a vaccine passport sting. This is a shocking headline. It's really incredible. Listen to this. Big Pharma boss caught faking his COVID vaccination status, injected himself with salt water, instead now facing criminal charges. It says police have charged Jose Maria Fernandez Sosa Faro, the president of European pharmaceutical behemoth Pharma Mar, with being falsely vaccinated against COVID-19. Dr. Sosa Faro is embroiled in a European controversy involving individuals, many of whom are well-known figures, being added to the National Immune Registry in exchange for large sums of money. Dr. Sosa Faro is among more than 2,200 celebrities and European elites on a list drawn up by the National Police of those falsely vaccinated against COVID. According to El Mundo, that's the newspaper reporting, Spanish police carried out the investigation called Operation Jenner, which uncovered the vast network of celebrities and elites who have paid money to have their names fraudulently entered on the National Immunization Register, despite refusing to be vaccinated. And it says here, this is the kicker. According to the police who are investigating the 2,200 false COVID-19 vaccination certificates, the fee was dependent on your social standing. The more important you were, the higher the price you paid. You got to wonder if that's going on in other countries like the United States.
Yeah, I mean, how many professional athletes, had a doctor squirt a vaccine into a trash can? How many people in power? I've even heard inside sources, inside CDC, FDA, saying that, they're cheating in here. Now, here you have a guy that works in the pharmaceutical industry. So he should know, if anyone's going to know what's going on there. And this guy's paying a fortune in order to keep from putting this thing in his body. In some ways, I guess it's unfortunate that they got caught. I guess, they were trying to just live a naturally healthy life. And the only way they sought to do that was by, I guess, fraudulently providing state documents. But I think we're going to see more of these types of things. Makes you think about how you move forward in a world like this. I mean, this is again, we laugh, but it's very dystopian, right? If you haven't gotten that injection, if you don't have that, serum running through your veins, are there machines that are going to detect that? Are we going to have a dye or something that appears in our vein? All of this has been discussed. All these thoughts are out there, and those technologies are being worked on as we speak.
Right. How many of these people, the 2,200 celebrities and elites, as they say in this article, how many of these people were on the front end pushing this through, you know, PSAs or through commercials, or pushing it because they're a sports celebrity? And then on the back end, the hypocrisy of this is just jaw dropping. In Spain.
That's right. It's crazy stuff, man. These guys don't mind telling you to go out there and get the jab, everybody. But hey, yo. But they're out there getting saline solution. Now, there was something in this video that really tripped me out when they were talking here. See if I can get to it without having to replay the whole thing here. That's working. But like this part right here, look at the needle. He hasn't even stuck it in his arm yet, and the plunger's all the way down. Like, how many times have they done that, like live on TV? I know when I've gotten a vaccine before, not these vaccines, but back when I was a kid, that plunger was pulled back there quite a ways. You know, and even like watches crap. This is crazy.
Inside sources, inside CDC, FDA, you know, saying that, you know, they're cheating in here. Now, here you have a guy that works in the pharmaceutical
That's crazy.
industry.
He didn't even push it down.
So he should know.
It was already down all the way.
There, a guy that works in the pharmaceutical industry, you know, and you know how many people in power. I've even heard inside sources, inside CDC, FDA.
Oh, I'm getting a jab. Why don't you?
Saying that, you know, they're cheating in here. Now, here you have a guy that works in the pharmaceutical industry.
It's going good, Hio.
Immunity and privileges in Kenya that raised a lot of eyebrows and a lot of concerns. But now the
We're going to get into a lot of the DEFUSE and stuff here in a minute. Well, the DEFUSE, the fog everybody's talking about. And we'll get into that here in a minute. But I got a lot of videos to get through. So let's get through it. It all ties in together. Just remember, bits and pieces of everything I show you are going to all tie together.
High Court of Kenya has suspended its privileges and immunities under the Privileges and Immunities Act, which has been granted by the government. Justice Bahati Moamwe of the Milimani High Court ruled that the privileges conferred through legal notice number 157, dated October 4th, 2024, would remain suspended pending the hearing and determination of the case filed by the Law Society of Kenya. According to the Standard, the legal notice signed by Foreign and Diaspora Affairs Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi on September 19, 2024, granted the foundation exemptions typically reserved for diplomatic missions and international organizations. Additionally, the Standard reported Justice Moamwe prohibited the foundation, its directors, officers, staff, and agents from continuing to enjoy any privilege and immunities under the Privileged and Immunities Act. Also, the Law Society of Kenya's CEO, Florence Muturi, accused the foundation of using its privileges to avoid scrutiny of its activities, especially its financial dealings and influence on public policy. Well, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to be celebrating this move by the High Court, because some people were skeptical, like they didn't understand why Bill Gates Foundation gets this immunity and privilege that others can get. What are they trying to hide? What are they going to do in Kenya that needs immunity, or why are they being prioritized to be given these privileges?
Kenya has granted the Gates Foundation a privileged special status that includes special privileges and immunity for its expatriate officials. This raises a very uncomfortable question. Why? What could be the foundation be planning that requires such immunity? The past of this philanthropic powerhouse is far from rosy. And it's time to confront the harsh reality behind the shiny facade of its supposed altruism. The Gates Foundation has been pushing hazardous agricultural technologies across Africa under the guise of feeding the continent. Yet, behind this benevolent-sounding mission is a deeply concerning agenda. The foundation has invested more than $6 billion into agribusiness giants like Bayer and Syngenta, corporations that are infamous for promoting GMOs, toxic pesticides, and other industrial agrotechnologies that are poisoning African lives, bodies, and lands.
Hello, guys. There's an article I was reading and I was so shocked, guys. At now, Bill Gates wants to buy immunity, guys. What is this we are doing to our country? How can you buy immunity? Alafu tunambembeleza bembeleza, but that is so wrong. I was reading an article that the staff who will be there will be exempted from legal action and from paying direct taxes from their salaries. Who does that? We are equal, and so long as someone is in our country, you should protect our constitution and do the right thing. There's no person who is superior. Now Bill Gates wants to come here and he starts controlling us.
So there were a lot more people that were skeptical of this move.
Yep, that's some wild stuff. Old Bill Gates gonna end up getting kicked out of Africa too. They need to just keep his money, boot him out, and tell him if he comes back, he goes to jail. That's what I would do. This guy was on Tucker, and it freaked me out, some of the stuff that he was saying. I mean, it'll definitely make you think twice before you go and put stuff in your arm.
Vaccines are grown with the cells of aborted baby tongues.
Well, no. Well, let me be clear about that. In that study,
Wait,
they
what?
were trying to figure out which body part was best to use. So the one that they ended up with was actually from the lung of the aborted baby. Aborted fetus. So it's lung fibroblasts are the where the cells the substrate that ended up working. So they tried with tongue, it didn't work as well. And there's a number of qualities they're looking for. How well does the virus replicate? Are there other potential, viruses back, and so forth and so forth and so forth. Well, what's the best medium to do it in? And so there's.
But you said that the cells have to be alive. So where do the bodies come from? Do we know?
I mean, when the baby is aborted for the purposes, and they're typically aborted for the scientific purpose, right? I mean, they have to know beforehand for the most part, because if they abort the baby and they don't immediately act to make sure that the tissues don't die, then you can't use them in these experiments. So, and this is. I'm
about as uncomfortable as I've ever been in an interview right now. This is like really beyond that this happens.
I'm just as uncomfortable as he is right now. What the hell? That's like totally against my religion. I can't be putting that stuff in me. Oh no. Hell no. Hell no. Look at this. Bill Gates gave regime media over $319 million to control the narrative. Gave the UN $1.27 billion. Gates is a member of the World Economic Forum, the WHO. He's a menace to society, no doubt. The man is evil. I just want to make sure I put his name out there enough, because it's him in the end. It's him.
One of many drugs we used to treat acute COVID-19. There were dozens and dozens of randomized trials, observational studies that showed, number one, it's extraordinarily safe. It's safer than Tylenol through a large range of doses. Mm-hmm. And that number two, it appeared to have a very prompt effect in helping people get through the illness. And in 3 papers that were summarized by first author Gukliakos and colleagues, showed that even in patients with low oxygen levels, they could promptly rebound at home and not be hospitalized. So in 2020, a prospective study was published in one of the best pulmonary journals, Chest, by Dr. Rushter and colleagues. He testified in the US Senate on December 8th, 2020. And with ivermectin given in the hospital, which was easy to give orally or down an NG tube, there was a 50% reduction in Americans who took ivermectin in these Florida hospitals. So in the absence of any concerns on safety, every single American admitted to the hospital should have been administered ivermectin because it gave.
Exactly. If you're a real doctor and you've seen how they were reacting to all these other drugs that they gave them that in the studies was, off in everything they gave it to. I mean, you could have gave them something to save their life instead of something that makes your liver shut down and fill your lungs up with water. The stuff that they were giving them at the time. That's exactly what it did.
Gave a chance at survival, and there was nothing to suggest that it was unsafe. Yet hospital administrators and chief medical officers and those in the hospital fought tooth and nail to be sure patients didn't get ivermectin. And multiple court cases like the one Dr. Bowden described went to court, and there were court orders to administer ivermectin. And this occurred in Buffalo, New York, in Chicago, and elsewhere. And when patients were given ivermectin, even very late in the illness, many were revived and survived. So the ivermectin story in the hospital is a very important one for people to understand.
Yeah, I'll never understand why they didn't do that in the beginning. All these elites out there telling everyone they need to go and get the shot. Like, the worst thing you can do is go get one right in the middle of a pandemic, number one. And number two, the medicine worked. It worked way better than the medicine they were trying to give everybody. Like, you were supposed to be able to have a choice. I thought Trump put that in the law to have a choice. But they were denying people care in some cases if they didn't have it. Now, if y'all don't follow Dr. Cruz, y'all really need to. I mean, he is a brain surgeon, and he really knows what the crap he's talking about. He was on Danny Jones' podcast 2 times. Definitely go watch the Danny Jones podcast with him on it. It is awesome. Watch his first one first, and then you'll understand why he was the way he was on the second one.
It's not just those two guys. I know a lot of people now with pretty severe vaccine injuries.
So do I.
And so many people have reached out to me because of what happened to me. Celebrities that wanted to be quiet about it. People that are like really hesitant about talking about it openly and publicly, but they were really scared. Like, people that have like real serious problem. I have 2 friends that have pacemakers now.
Yeah, I remember you talked about that. They're like, one of them in their 30s, right?
Yeah. He's a dentist.
That's not fucking normal.
No, it's not normal.
It's not normal
for
at
your
all.
heart to stop for 9 seconds at a time. He's a thin, healthy, young guy, and all of a sudden his heart starts fucking up.
Why does nobody care about that?
Well, everyone's scared. There's people that are scared because they took it and they're worried that they have a ticking time bomb, and they want any information that refutes that and that confirms that they made the right choice. Also, they did make the right choice morally and ethically when they did it. They did it because they thought they were doing the right thing. Everybody has to do it. We're going to protect everyone. If we all do this, this is going to get us out of the pandemic. Because the news media was being used by these pharmaceutical drug companies to push a very specific narrative. And they didn't do any critical thinking. They didn't step outside the box. They didn't talk to any scientists that differed. They all just stuck with whatever Fauci said, whatever the NIH said. And they also demonized people who were saying things that have been proven to be absolutely correct. Like the fuck.
Hey, Hio, what do you think AS would think about the whole baby thing? Man, that's still stuck in my head.
Lab leak theory. If you brought up the lab leak theory, you used to get banned from YouTube. Now it's widely accepted by everyone.
So is all the conspiracies that got people censored and kicked off. So many of them have been proven to be true.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. So many people thought they were doing the right thing. They thought, I'm doing my part. This is what we're supposed to do. 2 weeks, stop the spread. I'm full on board.
We're all together.
But let's look at what happened. And people are always like, why do you keep fucking bringing up the vaccine? For multiple reasons. But listen, this is a playbook that now we have. For the next time they fucking try and do this shit.
Right.
Don't forget about this.
Amen. Mr. Rogers is right on that one. Don't forget about what they did this last time. Before you go running to the hospital, make sure you remember everything that happened this last time. And this is a really good doctor too, and he sells products also.
Viruses called single-stranded RNA viruses. And some of those viruses include all the COVID strains, COVID-19, influenza virus, RSV virus.
That's right. She would shit. She would definitely
Marburg
shit.
virus, Ebola virus.
Makes me livid too.
Hantavirus, and there are a few others. The point being is that they all are single-stranded RNA viruses that use the same common pathway in making copies of their genetic material. That's something called RNA-dependent RNA polymerase. That's what I've been talking about for the last 2 years in the context of COVID-19. But if we extrapolate that to think more broadly, then it's the same mechanism of treatment using zinc ionophores and zinc could inhibit all the strains of COVID-19, influenza virus, RSV virus, Ebola virus, Marburg virus, and hantavirus. This has tremendous amount of national security implications. And I don't think anyone realizes this. And so I'm pleading with our scientists and the honest people in our government to investigate this, because as the...
And he's right. I've talked to a bunch of people that have been using this, and it works, and it keeps it from replicating. And knowing what we know now about having to get boosters and all that stuff, if you just stop taking it and start taking this stuff right here, it can end up, your body will end up doing away with it. But if you keep getting them, then I guess you get what you ask for. And I hope to God it's protection.
An internal document from Pfizer Laboratories, which was given to us by a very special person who we have contact with, called Reverse Engineering the Source Code of the BioNTech Pfizer SARS-CoV-2 vaccine. And this is very, very critical because it outlines the chemical and the biological processes which were very, very carefully manipulated in order to be able to produce an mRNA that also contained a very, very dangerous toxin to the human body. Do you know what that toxin is? That toxin is called graphene oxide. And every single one of these vaccines in a 30-milligram shot contains 15 billion nanoparticles or lipid carrier particles within the mRNA sequence. 15 billion nanoparticles. And let me tell you how graphene oxide works when it gets into the body. Because when the spike protein then binds itself to our blood cells and so on, graphene oxide then starts to build a structure. And this is why we have people with blood clots and we have people with heart failure, sudden heart failure, and so on. The patent databases that we have accessed proves that COVID-19 and COVID-19 vaccines are in fact a bioweapon. And how do we support that? Because we have a copy of the mysteriously deleted Wuhan databases that tell us everything. Thank you very much.
Now you guys I know this is crazy for a lot of people, but it's a fact. They put so much crap in these vaccines that it's absolutely insane. It's absolutely, I would never put something like that in my body, let alone my child. Now, I'm drawing a hard line on putting crap like that in my child. You're absolutely freaking insane, and they want to make it mandatory. And I'm happy to show this post right here because I've earned one myself. And I hope we all can earn this degree this next year. Do not comply.
I feel are also caused by vaccines because most.
Listen to this crap. This
I also
is
want to
insane.
introduce a category that I call modern syndromes, which I feel are also caused by vaccines because most modern syndromes, they have the word syndrome in them. And I know so many anecdotal stories about how somebody had vaccines and they got one of these syndromes. So I'm going to try to characterize how big this is. I'm going to name some of them. Chronic fatigue syndrome, also called mono, almost 0.5% of the population. Fibromyalgia syndrome, 2%. Complex regional pain syndrome. I see that after vaccines all the time also. And by the way, I see mono and chronic fatigue often after vaccines. In fact, when kids get mono freshman year in college, what did they get in the summer before they went back to college? They weren't kissing any more than they were in high school. They're still kissing. It's not that. They got vaccines before they went to college, and that's why kids get mono freshman year. Acquired immune deficiency syndrome, AIDS syndrome, again, postural orthostatic tachycardia, POTS syndrome. We know that happens after vaccines. That's 2% of the population. Mast cell activation syndrome, 17% of people. I couldn't believe that was so high. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
You know what? There's no such thing as mast cell activation. You're being poisoned at the blood-brain barrier.
Exactly. And that's what worries me about the PCR test. They stick that crap back there so far and they rub the back of that membrane. And that's part of the protection of the blood-brain barrier back there because it's so close to the nasal cavity. But they could end up putting something in there that could mess that up and allow for things to go straight from your nose into that, build up an infection, and go right to your brain. You think they're going to tell you? You think? So far, I haven't seen very much honesty. If you ask me, there's not very much honesty going on here. But we're going to get into the other stuff, the DEFUSE, Project DEFUSE here in a minute. But we're going to listen to a little bit more of this because all this stuff adds up. All these things that are happening to people, all this stuff adds up to that project. The things that are in these documents will just drive you freaking insane. I mean, conspiracy no more.
Cows are about 5% of global emissions, which is pretty unbelievable.
Wild.
And if your goal is to get to zero, you don't get to skip.
Now, I know this is a climate change still, right? But to Bill Gates, this all circulates. It goes into the DEFUSE and everything because they're spraying the cows. They're spraying the fields. It's on animals that are outside, and people that go out and touch these animals are ending up with these infections.
The cows or the steel or the cement or, any of those big areas. Cows and other grass-eating species have a digestion system that emits methane. And methane is a very powerful greenhouse gas. And so cows alone account for about 6% of global emissions. And so we need to change cows. So there's a whole class of solutions of making meat without cows. In terms of the cow,
we need to change cows, people. We need to start messing with their genetics. Don't worry about you eating cows. That's not the point. It's we need to change them so they don't fart so much. Well, I wonder what happens to you when you eat it.
Cows, we pursued many solutions. So one is to vaccinate the cows in a way that their gut bacteria that emit the methane, which is the second most important greenhouse gas, you can vaccinate them and that species of bacteria isn't there. Of all the categories, the one that has gone better than I would have expected 5 years ago is this work to make what's called artificial meat. And so you have people like Impossible or Beyond Meat, both of which I invested in.
Is it healthier for you?
Oh, he invested in it. Imagine that.
Or just healthier for the atmosphere?
It's slightly healthier for you.
A little shameless plug, you know.
In terms of less cholesterol. It's, of course, dramatic reduction in methane emissions. My climate group, Breakthrough Energy, just announced literally.
Pretty soon he's going to want everybody to have a fart bag. And then you're going to have to go release it at a center somewhere. And they're going to add up how many pounds of methane you went out. And you're going to have to pay for that.
Today, an investment in an Australian group called Ruminate that helps cows not be so much a source of methane emissions. So we have two paths to solving that. That's 6% of global emissions are cows who burp and fart methane to an extreme degree. You can either fix the cows to stop them doing that, or you can make beef without the cow. And both of those, will be pursued to see which one can lead to the best.
But how do we fix billionaires from thinking they can do dumb shit to the world and screw everybody's health up and screw the whole world up? How do we stop that? Is there a vaccine for that, Bill? I think we need a vaccine for that.
Product. It's just a question of which solution for which country ends up being the best.
My goodness. Now that just goes to show the insanity of the man. And listen to this guy right here. He's fed up with the crap.
I am a farmer. I have sheep. I have pigs. I have turkeys. And you know what? Where the grass grows, that's where the sheep shit. Right? You cannot feed billions of people until you have a soil cycle that includes animals. You must have them. Because otherwise, what do you do to make all these vegan soybeans and impossible foods that are really processed and things like that? What you do is you mine minerals, you mine nitrogen. We are 30 years away from running out of nitrogen. And then what are you going to eat? Because you got no animals left because you took them out of agriculture, even though we have buffaloes and elephants and roaming herbivores as part of a base of every ecosystem. You're going to pull those out because, I couldn't kill that. Meanwhile,
I don't know if y'all seen the Green Initiative in Africa in the Sahara, where they're bringing back plants and stuff, and they're greening the desert. Well, they're doing that by putting farm animals out there and grazing them in certain sections and moving them around, and it's adding nutrients back in the soil to where they can grow food and grass and trees. What a concept. Like Mother Nature intended.
Stupid vegan burger. You know how many butterflies, mice, cute little turtles, salamanders died when the tractors ran over them? Actually, very few of them died because that kind of monoculture has just reduced 40% of the insects on the planet are now gone from vegan diets and from just mass agriculture of stuff that's not even very good for people to eat. And then you get people say, well, feeding industrial animals this stuff is really bad for you, therefore be vegan. That is bullshit. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, it's Europe. But here's the deal. If you take that kind of food and you feed it to a cow, the cow is no longer suitable for eating either. So the only solution here is eat a hell of a lot less meat, and it has to be grass-fed meat because the precious cow poop refertilizes the soil. And that's how humans work. That's how biology works. That's how life works. And you cannot get away from that. And you can manufacture whatever food you want to do. But if your feedstock comes from dirt that goes into plants, that goes into your body, and you're not pooping on that soil, and no one else is pooping on that soil, you will create a desert. It'll just take a little bit of time. And you know what? If you read Superhuman, you're going to be alive long enough to watch it happen. You can't escape this. This is how it makes vegetables.
It's freaking insane, and he's right. I mean, we got to have grazing animals, and we don't need to be genetically mutating them. All this stuff will add up to what they're doing.
The Earth. It's called solar geoengineering, and it's highly controversial.
And other ways that
how long will it be that countries keep experiencing these climate impacts before someone gets desperate and says, hey, we need to cool the planet with solar geoengineering?
It would look something like this. Thousands of planes would fly very high and use nozzles to inject millions of tons of light-reflecting particles into the stratosphere. It would create a thin chemical cloud of those particles around the whole planet, blocking some sunlight from reaching the surface. It would mimic a giant volcanic eruption, which we know cools the Earth. But it also comes with significant risks and uncertainties.
Things like mass famine, mass flooding, drought, of kinds that will affect very large populations.
It could weaken monsoons in India, China, and Africa enough to affect crops. It could eradicate blue sky.
You start increasing the amount of diffuse light and you have less direct light, which is the same thing as saying it looks hazy and white.
It's a conspiracy, guys. It's all a conspiracy. But I want y'all to think about what they're using to how they're spraying stuff in the atmosphere. Well, let's remember that when we start talking about the DEFUSE situation. I'll get this going right here and swap y'all over real quick.
Welcome to the People's Voice, where we expose the lies, corruption, and collusion of the global elites. This week, major new evidence has come to light. Evidence that has blown the case against the COVID cabal wide open. Their crimes, their fingerprints, and their deception are laid bare, demanding justice like never before. From Bill Gates' covert dealings with the CIA in the lead up to the pandemic, to the mainstream media shamelessly selling lies for profit, to Stefan Bansal's damning admissions and the genetic breadcrumbs linking Moderna directly to the virus, we're building the case for Nuremberg 2.0. Stay tuned, because the truth is coming and justice is on the horizon. Before we dive in, join the People's Voice Locals community if you haven't already, and sign up to become a member of the world's first ever cyber nation that truly believes in life, liberty, and the pursuit of your dreams.
Subscribe to this
Visit
guy's channel. He's on
and
X.
click the Join Us button today.
Right there, his
it's
name.
Completely free. Moderna CEO Stefan Bancel has revealed
Make
a
sure
stunning
you join
detail
his
about the
channel
rapid
if you wanna
development of
be
the COVID-19 vaccine,
educated on what's
admitting that the
going
company
on. Not
copied
too
and
many
pasted the
people
spike
report
protein
this
sequence
stuff.
directly from the genetic data uploaded by the Chinese government. You heard correctly. Bancel just admitted that the experimental gene therapy product that was pumped into billions of arms around the world, damaging the human genome for the rest of time, was developed by scientists who blindly trusted the Chinese Communist Party, unaware of the full scope or potential risks of the data they were working with.
The second part is we code a protein that exists in nature. Think about the COVID vaccine. We did not invent spike. We copied and pasted spike when the virus was sequenced and put online by the Chinese government early in the pandemic.
You did that within weeks, right?
We did like in 48 hours.
There you go.
And so, and all in silico. We never had access to the physical virus to design the product. And the product that our team designed in silico on a weekend, just on the computer, is exactly the same molecule that you and I and many other people have gotten around the world. And that's the power of the technology, is we use always the same brick to make the molecule, and the molecule always codes for something that exists.
Looked like he sweated for a minute because he was lying about, oh, you and I both got, jab, jab, the saline.
In nature.
Bancel wasn't overstating it when he disclosed just how rapidly the catastrophic COVID vaccines were developed. designed in a mere 48 hours after the CCP published the virus's alleged genome online at the onset of the pandemic. Here he is, boasting to the World Economic Forum that they invented the vaccine in 2 days on a computer, which was only possible because they had been liaising with Tony Fauci about a coronavirus vaccine since 2018.
Remember, the links to all these videos are in my description. You just click on that, go to the thread, and all these videos are in that thread.
How convenient.
You know, one of the reasons we moved so fast, we took 2 days to design the vaccine on the computer. We took 2 days to design the vaccine on the computer.
2 days to design the vaccine on the computer.
Why? Because we had worked on MERS, another coronavirus, with Dr. Fauci's team for 2 years. With Dr. Fauci's team for 2 years. Looked at a lot of proteins, a lot of animal models. We knew out of the gate that our best chance of a corona with our technology was the spike-based protein. And we just went with it.
Given the disastrous consequences of the mRNA vaccines, Bansal's troubling admissions must be forensically analysed by prosecutors at the upcoming Nuremberg 2.0 trials for crimes against humanity by the COVID cabal. As Robert F. Kennedy Jr. questioned this week, why was the CIA...
Yeah, how can you sequence a vaccine if no one could even get it? Like, it took people forever to get the actual sequence of the virus.
CIA collaborating so closely with...
And there's more on that. That goes into the DEFUSE project also.
Globalist eugenicist Bill Gates, in the years leading up to the pandemic, participating in wargaming simulations that eerily foreshadowed the crisis to come. The CIA don't do public health. As RFK says, they do coup d'etat.
And that's why I tell y'all to go listen to Dr. Cruz on Danny Jones.
These are pivotal times. The case against the COVID cabal is coming into sharp focus right before our eyes. We've caught them red-handed in crimes against humanity. The paper trail has been painstakingly analyzed, and their fingerprints are all over the scene of the crime. They underestimated the power of ordinary people. But
tell me not Bill Gates, not Dr. Fauci. For real? No way.
We are standing up, and the tide of justice is turning. We'll break down the details right after this important message from our sponsor, Yusef Mengele, and for good reason. Like Mengele, Fauci is a psychopath who has pushed science into the realm of sadism, and there is an unmarked mass grave in New York State bearing witness to his sickness. Behind the accolades and the white lab coat lies a chilling legacy, experiments on vulnerable children, lives destroyed, hundreds of children-sized coffins, and a trail of evidence too damning to ignore. One thing is clear, this isn't just a scandal, it's a crime against humanity. And while President Biden seems...
He needs to be brought up on charges. They need to seize his phone, all of his data, and they need to ring him in. They need to bring him in. Everyone involved in this needs to go to a tribunal trial.
Seems determined to grant Fauci a sweeping, career-spanning pardon to shield him from justice. Others are fighting back. This is the man RFK Jr. vows to see face federal punishment, the kind reserved for the gravest crimes against our most innocent. The stakes? Nothing less than life and death, and maybe the electric chair. This is the people's voice, and today we are exposing the truth Fauci doesn't want you to hear. Before we dive in, join the People's Voice Locals community if you haven't already, and sign up to become a member of the world's first ever cyber nation that truly believes its rules involves handing out pardons to serial killers, child predators, and other vile criminals on federal death row. In fact, Biden seems so fixated on undoing justice for America's worst criminals that he's now pushing to overturn the federal death penalty. Why? According to DC insiders, it's because Biden knows many of his globalist allies could soon find themselves facing federal death row. If that sounds extreme, just wait till you hear what Dr. Anthony Fauci has been up to, while the mainstream media has been working overtime to cover up his worst atrocities. RFK Jr. appeared on the high wire this week, spreading the word about crucial information that the People's Voice brought to the world's attention last year. The horrifying discovery of hundreds of child-sized coffins in unmarked graves outside New York. All of them victims of Fauci's inhumane experiments.
Tony Fauci made sure that none of those kids had guardians, which is illegal. And then he hid what he was doing from the boards. He took foster homes in 6 states.
Holy shit. Aborted babies, real babies without any parents, foster babies. What the crap?
And he turned them over to the pharmaceutical industry. He made sure that the people who were running those foster homes did not even have medical training. Most of them were immigrants who came from the Dominican Republic. They knew nothing about medicine or
300 and something thousand kids missing right now. Immigrants. 300 and something thousand missing immigrant children. Hope they're okay.
responsibilities, and they were sickened when they realized slowly what they were involved in doing to these children, that they were torturing these children. And you know, there's videos of these children, an old BBC documentary that will make you cry. I promise you, you cannot look at these without weeping. There, you know, one of these kids, a 12-year-old who's trying to protect the 8-year-old, and he has a tube in his stomach. And he's telling them, you know, I tried to fight them, and this is what they do if you fight them. You can't fight them. You need to just take the drugs. And the kids didn't want to take them because the drugs were making them horribly sick. And Celia Farber, who's this.
Yeah, and you think this man, Fauci, gives any shits about you whatsoever?
Amazing researcher who worked on this chapter for me and did a lot of the original research on it. She actually went up to Hawthorne, New York, to the Gates of Heaven Cemetery. She found the cemetery where Fauci was disposing of the corpses of these children who died in his illegal experiments.
What the hell, guys? How can you do stuff like this? How can this kind of thing even be happening? I mean, if he was lying, mainstream media would have buried him in this. They would have buried him in this. There's a reason why they ain't said nothing about it. Because it's true.
She found an open pit. It was actually covered by an astroturf carpet. She opened the astroturf carpet and she saw hundreds and hundreds of tiny little coffins stacked haphazardly upon each other, because these are children who have no parents and nobody was there to protect them. And Tony Fauci treated them as collateral damage. And, you know, his objective was to enlarge the market for these pharmaceutical companies who he had partnered with by allowing.
He didn't do it to help us. I can promise you. Anybody that can do crap like that to little kids, they ain't trying to help nobody.
HIV, these toxic chemotherapy drugs to be given to children. And then the next experiments, which are in the next chapter, which are equally horrendous, is his experiments on African.
Fauci's passion for experimenting upon children and piling up tiny coffins is shared by Bill Gates, who also enjoys experimenting on poor children, orphans, Africans, and Indians. Wherever he can get away with it, children are dying or being sterilized in massive numbers, often in cruel and barbaric ways.
Welcome back. Were several Indian tribal girls used as guinea pigs? The report alleges.
I don't even think if the Antichrist come back that it would be that bad. What they're doing. The devil's shaking his head.
Alleges that 2 American pharma giants' untested vaccine was administered to thousands of tribal girls without proper study and paperwork.
India was among the hardest hit after Bollywood celebrities were incentivized by the Gates Foundation to urge the public to submit to mass vaccinations. In 2009, tribal children were administered the HPV vaccine. Over 24,000 girls were told they were being given wellness shots, in many cases without the informed consent of a parent or a guardian.
The people that were administering these vaccines lied to the guardians of these girls and told the girls, oh, this is going to cure cancer. You're never going to have cancer. And these girls became severely injured. Some of them developed.
I'll tell you what, if they got a record of them saying that to these people or witnesses, they need to go to court. They need to go to court now. I mean, these people need to be arrested, and all this stuff needs to be brought to light, because curing cancer.
Seizures, some of them developed cancer, and 7 girls died. And there was no insurance, there was no assistance for them.
Cancer.
And the Gates Foundation denied that it had been clinical trials. And it was so bad that the parliament in India created a task force. They studied it and they kicked out the Gates Foundation.
The Indian parliament formed a committee, and it was to me a rather surprising move, because you generally don't often have such a high-level inquiry into matters affecting poor people. And that was such an extraordinary report. I don't think Indian Parliament has ever come out with such a scathing report. And the government officials came up and said, we shouldn't have authorized this.
And you don't think anyone in our government knows this guy went over there and did that, and this scathing report is out, and he's still able to go around the world and do what he's doing, spraying shit in our air, making genetically engineered mosquitoes. Who in the hell gives him this authority? I mean, we can't even fly a drone over 50 feet without asking or whatever it is. You can't get away with nothing. And this man is out there committing crimes against humanity and deciding what he's going to do with our cows and our food.
We're sorry. We're not going to allow them again. And now they're back doing their same old tricks.
It's incredible how far money can go when it's in the hands of a globalist billionaire with a passion for eugenics and a vision for depopulation. The shameless psychopath even admitted that India is his personal laboratory where he gets to play around and see what happens without any consequences.
And it's kind of a laboratory to try things that then, once you prove them out in India, you can take to other places. And so
well, I want you to look at something. At the shameless nods of the people interviewing him, the shameless nods of these people, what the hell? Are they even listening? Are they even freaking listening to what this man is saying?
India is his personal laboratory where he gets to play around and see what happens without any consequences.
And it's kind of a laboratory to try things that then, once you prove them out in India, you can take to other places. And so our biggest non-US office for the foundation is in India, and then most number of pilot rollout things we're doing anywhere in the world are with partners in India.
As Gates comes to terms with the reality of standing trial in the Netherlands for allegedly misleading the public about the deadly risks of COVID vaccines, he's bracing for a wave of lawsuits being prepared across the globe. Meanwhile, Fauci is reportedly quaking in his boots, pleading with Biden for a sweeping, preemptive pardon to cover his entire career. But it's too late for Fauci. We've got the evidence, the clips that will bring him down, whether Biden steps in to shield yet another killer or not. Today's sponsor is pillsforever.com. If you think Big Pharma have your best interests at heart, think again. Under Biden, the price of medicine in America has skyrocketed, and there are certain medicines Big Pharma don't want you to know about.
Of small cell lung cancer.
Once that kind of cancer goes that far afield, the odds of survival are less than 1%, and the median life expectancy is 3 months.
Tippin says he got a tip, not from a pharmacist, but a veterinarian. And in his desperation, he turned from people medicine to dog medicine, specifically fembindazole.
My insurance company spent $1.2 million.
Remember what he said, fembindazole. Just for people out there that need to know. Our government is freaking psycho. I mean, if anybody else would have done this stuff, I mean, they would be in prison indefinitely. I mean, when's the last time we had a tribunal? I mean, I just can't believe stacking coffins in a graveyard. I mean, what else do you need to know about the man? Y'all guys need to follow this lady right here, Mary Talley, MD. She's awesome. She was on Danny Jones' podcast with Dr. Cruz. Let's listen to her.
You know how many people are still getting these shots? It's probably less than 10%. And that's a reflection of their trust in our government. Nobody should be getting these shots. If we don't do something, we're never going to restore the trust. And this is the time to do it. And soft pedaling this is just not going to work. People do not trust our health system. You know how many people...
Facts. I know I don't trust it. A little bit of baby lung, a little bit of graphene. What the hell?
This morning, a holiday health warning as cases of the norovirus surge.
Norovirus decided to be our last little Christmas gift.
New data from the CDC shows an increase in outbreaks, with 91 reported in the first week of December across 14 states. More than double the number for the same week over the past 3 years.
Is there any reason why we're seeing this rise?
Gathering together, especially this time of the year, and all the traveling we're doing, that's causing the increases.
Yeah, you
The
guys
highly
don't go
contagious
out and have
virus,
any
commonly
fun.
referred to as the stomach flu, can cause days of vomiting, gastrointestinal problems, and fever.
I promise you, you do not want this.
Norovirus can be spread through direct contact with an infected person, touching contaminated surfaces, or eating contaminated food.
If you have been sick with this, I'm sending you all my love because it's no joke.
Now, with millions expected to gather for New Year's Eve celebrations, health experts say it's important to take precautions, wash produce thoroughly, don't share utensils, and don't rely on hand sanitizer.
You know, we all have this around the house, the hand sanitizer. This does not work very well for norovirus. You need to wash your hands, that 20 seconds we always talk about.
Wonder what else they got out there. These people are insane. There he is, talking with these people, and they're just sitting there nodding their head, you know. It's worth another list.
Pursued many solutions. So one is to vaccinate the cows in a way that their gut bacteria that emit the methane, which is also called natural gas or CH4, which is the second most important greenhouse gas. You can vaccinate them, and that species of bacteria isn't there.
Year, ladies and gentlemen. 2024 has been a wild ride, and I want to wrap up 2024 and begin 2025 by showing you a conversation that I just had with Dr. Robert Malone. Now, many of you have heard of Dr. Malone. He is very famous for being the inventor of mRNA technology, as well as his analysis of what happened during.
Dr. Malone is a really good doctor, and I suggest everybody follow him and keep up with what he's saying.
In the 2020 pandemic, but I brought him on the show because
but always be skeptical.
Wanted to talk to him about what's been going on with this bird flu. I've been seeing headline after headline after headline about this so-called pandemic crisis that we are being faced with right now, and how there's so much urgency for what we need to do before the inauguration on January 20th in order to ensure the public safety and interests are met. But the more research I did, the more bizarre it became. The more I looked into the history of this bird flu, I realized that it had been around for a long time, ever since at least 1961, with the first human case in the 1990s. Between 2010 and 2014, there were more recorded cases of humans with bird flu than between 2020 and 2024. So why is it that the headlines are blowing up about this flu? Why is it that everyone's saying it's so dangerous when we know the mortality rate is not anywhere near what the officials and the pundits are saying that it is? Why is it that they're pushing for vaccines for this bird flu when people don't even spread it amongst themselves? So I spoke with Dr. Robert Malone about what psychological operation he believes is taking place right before our eyes. They're doubling down on what they did in 2020. And instead of walking away, shying away, or changing their ways compared to 2020, they are insisting that we expand government, that we expand regulation, and they're weaponizing this so-called pandemic for the sake of establishing more regulatory powers and control over the food supply. So please check out this clip with Dr. Robert Malone and see what's really going on.
I don't think you can be skeptical enough of government bureaucratic initiatives and intent. I absolutely endorse that one should be extremely vigilant and extremely aggressive as a investigative journalist operation like the Alex Jones Show and InfoWars in pursuing and holding accountable government officials for their behaviors. And it's highly likely that they will use any justification to advance the use of this technology in every possible application. Hence my skepticism about why the emphasis on cattle, because cattle was the clear bright line in the sand for why this particular technology should not be advanced into the food supply, because we have dairy cattle and we know that these products are shed in milk.
Exactly. I mean, everyone likes a little bit of chocolate milk, regular milk. You make gravy. I mean, we don't want this stuff in our animals. I mean, we're finding out what it's doing to humans, finally. And now they're putting it in our damn food supply. I mean, it's freaking insane. They even want to put it in lettuce and stuff. I mean, they want you to eat the vaccine. I mean, what the hell are you talking about? I mean, there's a line to be drawn.
So one hypothesis in a world in which there is a concerted effort to reduce a reliance on cattle as a component of the food supply is that it's actually a good thing, if that's your agenda, to make consumers more skeptical about buying meat.
18% of greenhouse gas emissions come from livestock farming. So if we eat less meat, we could significantly reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. We could artificially induce mild intolerance to meat. And in this way, we can create an aversion to eating eco-unfriendly food. And we can do this, for example, by having meat patches, kind of like nicotine patches.
What the hell? A meat patch, guys. Get your meat patches. You know, everyone stand in line. Instead of soup bowls, we're going to give you meat patches, man. A 30-day supply of meat patches every month. No need to go to the grocery store. See, modifying mosquitoes. I mean, how much crap are we going to let this guy dip his hand in?
Ohio waterfowl. They say over the last, the ODNR is reporting the possibility of bird flu in Ohio waterfowl. They say over the last few weeks, geese, swans, and a duck have been reported dead and are being tested. The Division of Wildlife says this is not an immediate public health concern, but they say avoid handling sick or dead birds and report any dead birds to the Division of Wildlife. The ODNR is reporting the possibility of bird flu in Ohio waterfowl. They say over the last few weeks, geese, swans, and a duck have been.
Yeah, because they're out there doing the DEFUSE. They're spraying the crap in the air. It's just insane what these people will do. This is my channel here if y'all ever want to go check it out. I'm going to show y'all the document, and then I'm going to speak on it a little bit. But all of it is on my X account. You can see all this stuff on my X account. There's the thread right there. And y'all really need to go watch the 2 Danny Jones podcasts with Dr. Cruz. I mean, it is eye-opening what our government will do. Like this right here, this is the company that makes the dispersing rigs for spraying this stuff. Okay. And this was taken directly off of the document. Okay. It's in my timeline. Y'all can go down and click on it. And there's a copy of the document in here. Okay. And I also got a breakdown of what the Project DEFUSE is. And it's right here. The DEFUSE proposal includes a plan for using drones to deliver aerosolized agents. Okay, you can go read this. Okay, and it also talks about early on in the, and there's a link to the document right there. We can go to that right here, and I'll share my screen so you can look at it. But also in this stuff, it tells you exactly how they were making these viruses and where they were. They were doing this stuff in Africa, North Carolina, and of course China. The document is on my profile. All you have to do is go to my profile and scroll down and check it out. Everyone needs to go in there, and you can use words in here, and you know, it'll bring up everything that has that word in it. Forget what I used earlier. Let's see if I can find it in here. Let's see. But yeah, it tells you everything they did. It's 70-something pages long, guys. And it's full of crap that will make your eyes fall out. I swear, reading it. It's insane. And I forgot to look and see if there was a date up here on the top. 2018 Eco Health Alliance. I'm sure everyone's heard of that before. Insane stuff, man. We'll go back over to X and share this. And just remember, these guys do some crazy stuff in that document. I want to go over a lot of it. A lot of it is how they were turning it into a gel. They started out just spraying it on animals. All the little children of the world, huh, Bill? Like, it's not bad enough he's going after grown people. He needs the kids. The kids, man. Got to get the kids. World population control. What better way What better way to introduce it? We need a vax to stop him. How do you vaccinate against evil ass motherfuckers? That's what we need. Something that can stop billionaires from thinking they own the world. Where's the vaccine for that shit? You got one for farts. I mean, come on now. Let's think logically. Good. We shouldn't do anything. I mean, only 3% of our kids are dying and getting health effects. What the crap, man? That guy, that's why Dr. Cruz went off on his ass, because it's not making any sense. What he's saying just don't make no damn sense. All kinds of people going off about stuff. But look, you guys can go to my page and go down and read the DEFUSE document for yourself. I got a document reader, and it was just an add-on for Chrome. So you can sit there and listen to it while you do stuff. You can actually just go through the pages. It makes it a lot easier to get through the stuff. And you can type in trigger words. Once you find a couple trigger words, you can type those in, and it'll bring that stuff right up. And but it's really a lot of there's a whole lot of mumbo jumbo added into this stuff. But it talks about sticky aerosols that will bind to like their feathers and stuff like that. So when they go to clean themselves, it gets in their nose, it gets in their mouth, and they did it up in the bat caves, and he was wanting to do it to people. Now I got a post on my timeline to where, when all this stuff started happening, we had the drone situation. And this is what turned me on to really wanting to dig into this stuff, is because the whole drone situation in New Jersey and stuff and all over the world, it really made me dig into this stuff. And I was like, man, no way are they doing this. And I really think they are. I really think they're doing it. And it's completely and utterly insane. And I try to keep up with this stuff because it's important for me and my family. That's the only way we're going to be safe is to stay in the know. Well, I know a lot of people liked it, so we can go into my notifications. Like, there's a lot of people liking the documents, and the breakdown, like this one I showed you earlier. Read that. It gives you a quick breakdown. Grok broke the whole thing down for me. And that's another thing on X. If you got a question about something, you can go put it in Grok, and Grok will give you a good breakdown of this stuff. Yeah, right here. Leaked docs expose Fauci's plan to spray self-spreading vaccines on population centers by drone. Well, his office is in Maryland. That's what's freaking insane. That's what made me start digging into this stuff, because after I seen this, I looked up where his office was, and it's right here in Maryland. And New Jersey's right there. And there's military bases all out through here. So he didn't have no problem in the position he's in to be able to go spread this stuff by drone. They lost the election, and what hampered the last time Trump was in office, the only way they could slow down the economy was an outbreak. And you got crazies out there that are willing, they'd be willing to go in and get a shot and be the first person to transmit this stuff. They'd be willing to do it just because they're psycho, just like Fauci. I mean, the man is insane. Like, if Dr. Evil ever lived, it would be him, and he works for Bill Gates. That's all I got to say. That's just, it's insane, the crap that he does. And I mean, I'm not saying that's exactly what happened here. You know, who am I? You know, I'm nobody. But the correlation, drones, and his office being right here, you know, somewhere. So, I mean, it don't take much to put two and two together that he may be doing that. I mean, they didn't want to shoot him down. They wasn't real quick to act on the situation. And they started doing drills on the base, all this stuff. It's absolutely nuts what they will do. But that's pretty much all I got, guys, for tonight. I appreciate you watching. And I want you to understand, anytime you can come to YouTube, and I will drop a link if you want to come up and talk about it. That's what I'm trying to do these lives for, is to get enough followings from X and YouTube subscribers so we can have a soapbox where we can talk to each other and go over these things that are happening. There's a lot of things that are happening every day, like the H-1B, visas, and all that stuff. But the only way we're going to get through these things together like a family is if we start having those conversations. Remember, guys, it's all for one cause or nothing. Peace out, guys. It's all for one investigates, because it's all for one or all for nothing.